If I could explain it, I wouldn't need faith. It's just something about when you walk in the place. I've seen you heal people, set captives free. With just one word, you delivered me. This is what happens when you're in the room. Miracles, signs, and wonders. I've seen it happen time after time. Miracles, signs, and wonders.
Hi there, my name is Tameka Riley, and welcome to another episode of Chasing God. Today I'm here with Yolanda Blueford. Yolanda has had some very, very miraculous encounters with the Lord, and we're going to learn all about those today. Yolanda, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a single mother.
Okay.
I have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter.
hmm
I am born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay.
One of 8 siblings,
Ah,
3 girls, 5 boys.
okay. Are you the youngest? Where do you
I'm
fall in there?
actually the third
The third.
from the
Okay.
oldest.
Okay. So you had some others under you, probably
I
some
have
more
5 under me.
responsibility. Oh.
Yes, big responsibility.
Okay. And you said born and raised here in Little Rock.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about your experience with Christ, your conversion story.
Okay. I would say I wasn't born and raised in church. I accepted Christ at 13.
Okay.
And I pretty much, stayed in there. My aunt introduced me to Christ.
Okay.
And at that time, I was 13, 7th grade. And we actually ended up moving. I know you've heard of Little Rock Central High. So
Went
it's close
there.
to it. And the church that I had accepted Christ was a little farther away. So I actually ended up moving my membership from Macedonia Baptist Church to Greater Paradise Baptist Church.
I remember that.
So that was about a
church.
mile or so from my home, but I would walk every Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, walk
That's
to church,
cool.
and so
Okay. So when you, because sometimes there's a period to where you accept Christ, you're young, but then when you get older, you begin to know Him for real.
yes.
Tell me what that was like for you.
And this is gonna sound odd.
I bet it won't.
I actually had really began to study and search the scripture because I actually during this time I think it was like in 95, 94, and there was something strange that happened in the United States here. You heard of the guy Jeffrey Dahmer?
I remember.
Well, I saw a report of some things that happened with he and some young men. And I was like, Lord, what is this? And I said then, I said, you said that there is nothing under the sun that has not been done. I said, so this has been done where?
My Lord.
And I began to read my Bible. I read it from the front to the back about 3 or 4 times. And I was like, okay, slow down. Go through the Bible very slowly. And when I went through the Bible very slowly, I found it. It was actually dealing with the Canaanites.
Oh.
And they were sacrificing their daughters and sons and other individuals. And I'm like, this is crazy. That's when I really started reading the Word. And further along, I think I was like in my early 20s. And after during that time, I had lost my mom.
I'm sorry to hear
And
that.
I had my sons then. So I had twins.
Okay.
Yes. And they were like 3.
Okay.
And I just kept going. I'm like, okay, I need to read this because I need to get the understanding of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Time went on and things of that nature. And I didn't have a real encounter until after I had a stroke.
Tell me about what that was like. You had a stroke,
I had a stroke at 39,
39.
and it was because of what I thought was a allergic reaction to the medication
Okay.
afterwards. And I would always question the doctors, why did I have a stroke, but they couldn't tell me why.
Mm.
And so one doctor came up and he was like, have you ever been on birth control? And I'm like, yeah, that was a long time ago. He said, that's why.
Really?
I was like, really? Yes. And it took me back because my best friend was on birth control as well.
Mm.
And she had encountered close range 3 heart attacks
What?
because it was so strong.
The birth control?
The birth control. Yes. Yes. See, I'm like you. I was like, get out of here. But yes,
And this was a known issue, it sounds like.
it was.
So these were the pills, or was this a different form?
No, these were the pills.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I had taken them for 8 years,
Mm.
nonstop,
As a young adult.
as a young adult.
But now you're near 40 and you're seeing side effects from it. As the story, they said that was why.
Yes.
All those years later.
All those years later.
That's bananas.
Very so. And so after I had the stroke, I was sitting at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I got paranoid because after I had the stroke, I lost everything. My home, my car, job, and I was a breadwinner. And I had went through short-term disability, and that was only like 4 to 8 weeks. And so at the end, I'm like, okay, Lord, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? I was just panicking, and I heard a voice. Didn't you say you was going to trust me?
Mm-hmm.
I said, yes. He said, trust me then.
Wow.
I said, okay.
Wow.
And I began to trust him.
What was that like? I bet that was scary.
It was scary because I'm trying to figure out how am I going to do this.
Mm.
And at that time, my sons, I had let them go live with their father because we weren't together.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let them go live with him. At least they would know who their father is.
Yeah.
And so during that time, it was during the stroke. And so I was like, okay, Lord, how am I going to do this? I'm about to lose my home, lose my cars. And even the job, because one of the physical therapy individuals was like, well, you can go back to work and you can do everything normal like you were doing. And at this particular time, I was on a cane because I was on a walker first. Went to a cane, and I went to work.
On a cane.
On a cane. And I was a security officer.
Okay.
And so my supervisor was like, what are you doing? I said, well, I was told that I can still function. And he was like, no, they will not. He said, you're going to have to go back home.
My goodness.
I'm like, okay. And so I really had to trust God because even when my doctor was saying, take these papers to the Social Security office and give them to them so they can start their disability.
No?
No.
What?
Didn't start till 6 years later.
Years?
Years.
So you were on a trust walk for 6 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, they finally started my long-term disability with my job, but not the disability.
Wow.
Disability.
So how did you see God's hand in that, like during those 6 years? I'm sure he showed himself, strong on that during that time.
He would always send someone.
I like when he does that.
My best friend,
Yeah.
when she's deceased now,
Oh, sorry.
I would go visit her sometimes. I wouldn't open my mouth didn't ask for anything.
Mm.
And she was like, here, go pay all your bills.
Ah,
And she would never ask for anything back.
wow.
I'm like, okay, Lord.
Wow.
Because we're talking about Sunday night, like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
In the midnight
And
hour.
everything is due that Monday.
That Monday, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, shut the front door.
And the back one.
Yes. He would intervene each time. And
That's beautiful.
because I would have income, and then it stopped again
Mm.
for like 8 months.
Mm.
And I'm like, you know what, Lord? Okay. I
But
trust you.
he
You
would
see me
show up
panicking.
there. He would show
I gotta
up. Huh?
trust you.
Yeah. My goodness.
So yes.
Wow. So there were some other times. I know that you mentioned some situation that you were in that the Lord brought you out of, life-threatening situations.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I would say I was in a relationship with a young man, and I ended up breaking up with him
Mm-hmm.
because things were just going too crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that he had begun to use drugs, being influenced by his friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, my daughter was 3. And I'm like, that's not going to work. And so I stopped dating him because I had saw something, with his
Some
mom
red flags.
and
Yeah.
her husband.
Mm-hmm.
It was abusive, and the particular time that I decided I was going to just get completely away from him is when I saw him shoot at the vehicle that she was in. And I said to myself,
His mother.
his mother's in that vehicle.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that she could have gotten hit
Oh my God.
with that bullet. And I'm like, it's not going to work.
No, that's like a
You know.
giant red flag.
And so I had got out of that relationship, and
Yeah.
I was talking to another young man, and I used to carry my weapon with me. And so this particular evening, I got home, showered, and things of that nature, and I got ready to walk to the store because it was only 5 blocks from my home. And I said, I don't need to take my pistol with me because I'm only going 5 blocks. What can happen in 5 blocks? And so I heard the voice again, take your pistol with you. And I'm like, nah. I heard it again. But I just left it there. Walked to the store. And the ex-boyfriend used to detail cars.
Mm-hmm.
So he would be in different vehicles.
Oh.
So that's why I didn't notice him.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
it was a totally different vehicle. And I and the young man I was dating, we were walking down the sidewalk. And this vehicle just abruptly stopped. And I'm like, what in the world? He got out of the vehicle and pushed me back. And so the young man I was dating stepped in between us.
Mm-hmm.
Me not knowing that he had a weapon in his hand. He had a knife in his hand. And the type of knife that he had in his hand, you ever seen Rambo
Yeah, yeah.
come up out of the water?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was one of those that pretty much that they would use to gut, like deers and things of
Yeah.
that nature. And the butt of it probably was about the size of this microphone. And by him being the same height as I, 5'2", the gentleman I was walking with was 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
When he reached his hand, he's standing in between he and I. He took the butt of the knife and hit him in the lower part of his neck. And so he stumbled across 4 lanes.
Whoa.
No cars were coming.
Thank God.
Yeah. And so at that time, took the knife, put it to my side, let me to get in the car. And he went through the neighborhood, and I saw my brothers at this restaurant standing out. And he said, if you touch that door handle, you're going to die. And I'm like, okay.
So he had put you in the car by then and was kidnapping you.
And so he rode all pretty much over the south part of Little Rock. It took me by interstate, and told me, I could just stab you to death and just throw you on the train track,
Oh,
but they'll find you.
oh my God.
So we started to ride again. Then he took me on Arch Street. When you make a right to come to 65th, there's a plant there that they have all those rocks and cement and things of that nature that sit off to the right. Well, there's like a pond there. We stopped right there. He said, I could stab you and throw you in here,
Just tormenting
but it's
you.
so
until-
shallow they would find you.
Oh my God.
And I just kept saying Jesus. Because I didn't speak in tongues, didn't know anything about that. I just kept saying Jesus the whole time. And so he ended up taking me to where he was staying. And I was raped twice, actually 3 times there, and I started hyperventilating.
Oh my God.
He got nervous and took me to UMS. And so at that time, the doctor was questioning me, do you want him in the room? I said, no, I don't want him in the room.
Wow.
And once they took him out of the room, and I told them what happened, and by chance, he went and called my mom to let her know where I was.
Wow.
So that happened this went on for about 6 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like the kidnapping and that whole ordeal?
Yes.
That was 6 hours.
6 hours.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so your family, once they found out where you were, they were able to come to the hospital. Was he arrested or?
No, they didn't find him at that time.
Oh, he left and.
Yeah.
Oh.
But he was arrested later. And the only odd thing with that ordeal was the young man I was dating moved out of state.
Oh.
And so by the time they got in contact with him, we had already went to court. And so it was pretty much my word against his.
Oh.
And so they let him go.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, as upset as I was for years, I told God, I said, if I see him, I'm going to kill him. And I meant that. But over the years, I was like, Lord, take this anger from me. Take it from me because I'm
That's
angry.
heavy.
I can be angry with someone that has not done anything to me. And so I just kept praying and kept praying and kept praying. To the point one day I saw him.
Uh-oh.
And it didn't faze me.
Wow.
Now, this is the type of God that we serve because he even had me praying for him.
What?
Yeah.
Ooh. How that taste? Oh my gosh.
And I began to pray for him.
Ooh. That is a hard one.
Yeah.
I've had to pray for people and it's like, some things it's like, yeah, that.
Yeah.
How did that go?
By the time, let me see, it happened when I was 22. And by this time, I'm 27.
So 5 years had passed since this had taken place.
Uh-huh.
He was set free, what, 2 years later, was
Well,
it?
he was set free, but then he ended up going back. He ended up going to prison because he killed someone.
Oh, my goodness. But you saw him before then?
I saw him before then. I actually, at the store I was working at, his mom came in.
Oh, wow.
And I told his mom, I said, you may want to put him in some insurance.
Oh.
I said, if he comes anywhere close to me, I said, I'm going to kill him.
Oh, my goodness.
I did. And that's when I knew I had to start praying and praying, Lord, take this, take this, take this, take this.
Wow.
And he began to take it, and I began to pray. Because I look at the fact that when individuals do things like that, it's something has happened somewhere.
Yeah.
And so after that, I began to pray and ask God to take the hatred from my heart for him. And I began to ask God to change his life.
Wow.
I don't know how you're going to do it, Lord, but I pray for him
My God.
and his family. And so I think it was in 2012. My sister called me and said, "Have you heard the news?" I'm like, "What news?" She said, "Your ex was driving a car," his sister told him, "and he had a head-on collision and broke his neck,
Oh my
and he
gosh.
died instantly."
Died instantly. Ooh wee.
Yes. Well, I saw his mom, and she was like, "Why would God take him?" I said, "I can't answer that question.
Mm.
It's a question I can't ask." I said, "But I pray your strength and your family's strength,
Right.
because that's a child you lost that you can't get back."
So the 3-year-old that you had when you was that his child or
No.
okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
So there were no children between the two of you, and
No.
that's. How did you move from wanting to kill him to praying for him?
It was a God thing.
Had to be, huh?
It had to be.
My God.
Yes, because I made sure I kept my peace with me at all times. And
Just in case.
just in case. And I'm like, "Lord, I can't live like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't live like this." So
Wow.
I just began to pray, and it had to be him.
Had to be. So what would you say to people who are kind of in situations to where they have some very hard things to forgive? Because we know the Bible talks about if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven. But
Exactly.
it's easy to say it, but it's extremely painful, especially with something like what you went through. What advice would you have for people that have been through something similar?
For one, you have to pray,
Yeah.
and you have to be sincere when you pray.
Yeah.
Because we can say things all day long. And one thing I do know, when you are so upset with a person, you say, "I forgive him, I forgive him."
Mm-hmm.
But when you see him
Ooh.
and the rage rises up,
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
have not.
Mm-hmm.
When you see them and you can be like, "Okay, go ahead," and never face you, that's when you know that you have truly forgiven.
Yeah. And your heart will tell on you, won't it?
Yes, it will.
You can kind of feel it in there.
What's in the heart will come out.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
know I've had some hard situations with people that I had to forgive, and I'm just trying to pray for them. It just don't taste right.
It doesn't.
But you keep pressing through, and you get to the other side of that, and you do find where your prayers are more sincere, and the Lord will give you a grace that it's miraculous almost, because it's
Yes.
like, you know what? You want to pray, touch not my anointed, Lord, smite them.
Because one thing about, like he said, is my words are life,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're true. When you truly know,
Mm-hmm.
um, there is a spark in the life that's in you.
Yeah.
Because when you don't look like
What you've been
what
through.
you've been through,
Ah.
yeah,
Shadrach,
because
Meshach, and Abednego. They didn't smell like
yes,
smoke when they came out, did they?
no, and this was the second time, because I dealt with the molestation at the age of 9 or 12.
9 to 12. Wow. Was this a family member or
A friend of the family.
a friend of a family member? And you had to forgive.
End up praying for him too.
My goodness. That's the
Yeah.
grace of God. Wow. Phew. So what are some other instances that you can point to where you saw the hand of God just miraculously in your life, and that it was nobody but God?
God is just amazing all the way around, because me dealing with, like I said, it's 8 of us.
Mm-hmm.
It was 9, one passed. But I had to pretty much raise my brothers and sisters.
Wow.
I
That's hard.
started cooking for them the entire family at the age of 9.
9.
And I had to make sure they went to school.
So where were your parents? Were they working a lot?
My mom's single.
Single
because,
mom working.
her relationship with my dad was abusive at one time.
I see.
And she got out of that.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so I wasn't not the oldest, but I was the most responsible one.
I see.
She would have to work. She was a bartender, waitress and things of that nature, and really couldn't afford a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I end up babysitting and cooking and cleaning. I actually stepped in my mom's role.
Mm. At such a young age.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, here comes this.
Yes.
Wow.
And so with that, it was my responsibility to make sure they went to school. You know, make sure they were dressed, fed, things of that nature.
Mm.
And so I did not get the opportunity to finish school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so even with that, God has been amazing because I've experienced working at jobs that I'm not qualified for.
Favor.
What man says, what God says I am.
Yeah.
So I've seen his hand in that personally.
Yeah.
I
That's
have the
beautiful.
experience, but not the qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
And he moves that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He always provides and open doors for his people.
Yes, indeed.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Whew. Okay. Well, what advice would you have for someone who's on the fence about Christianity? They kind of teeter-totter and not really taking it seriously. Because I'm sure you went from, different levels. Like at 13, I know you said that you were baptized, but then there came a point to where you became, your relationship became a little bit more intimate.
Yes, because
Like
at
you
13,
matured.
I didn't know him.
Right, right.
At 20, I would say, in my 20s, I was beginning to know him. I would see his hand. Because even when my mom passed, I was 27. I was pregnant with my twins and didn't know it.
Oh.
And so after I had my twins and things of that nature, my mom passed in February. My twins were born in August of the same year. And we ended up becoming homeless. And so even with that, I would just pray and things of that nature. Because I was dealing with some things, and I'm like, Lord, if you open a door for me to get this job, then the other things I'm doing, I'll stop. And he did just that.
You would stop. Stop what?
Because I got into, sometimes we can get into things we shouldn't get into because of loneliness and peer pressure. And I would tell anyone peer pressure is not just for children.
It's not.
Adults as well. And so I began to sell drugs. And so I wasn't a drug user. And with that, I would make the money and things of that nature. And I got to the point I said, I can't keep looking over my shoulder. I can't keep wondering if somebody's going to, set me up, rob me or whatever. I said, God, I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
I said, I can't keep doing this. And I said, if you allow me to get this job, I'll shut it all down.
Yeah.
And that was in 93. And even though individuals would come and say, I'll provide this for you, that for you, you don't have to spend a dime, and you can just... I said, Daddy, I know what I told you. I made a promise to you, and I'm going to keep that promise.
Awesome.
And I did, because they came to me like at the most roughest time, because I didn't have finances. I would go to work. I may have $2 to put in my gas tank, and I was like, nope.
Temptation came.
I know what I said. I said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep my word.
Yeah.
And I kept my word.
Wow. So today,
Yes.
when you look back over everything, my gosh, how long have you been in Christ? That is what...
Whew.
I won't make you tell your age.
Oh, I don't mind telling my age. One thing about it, when I survived that stroke, I'm like, hey.
And you cannot tell. No limp, no slow. I mean, just no cane, nothing. It's just like it never happened.
Yeah, and I had to pray, and that's where I saw his hand, because after the stroke, the right side of my face was drooped. A few days later in intensive care, I couldn't move anything.
Wow.
I was paralyzed for a few days.
My God.
Yeah. So I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to talk.
Wow.
Had to learn how to drive.
Mm.
I had to learn how to do it all over again.
And look at you today.
I said, God
Mm.
is faithful.
He is faithful.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. Okay. So what final thoughts would you want to leave us with?
That if you just focus and truly trust God,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see His hand.
Amen.
You know, never give up. No matter how hard it gets,
Yeah.
just keep going.
Amen. I am a witness to that.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a beautiful thing. Well, thank you for coming today. I appreciate it.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. I know we've been trying to get this done for some time, but
Yes.
I think we're good. We're yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
My name again is Tameka Riley, and this is Chasing God. And I thank you guys for joining us for this week's episode. We'll be back next week with another episode. And you can find us online. You can find me online at I am Tameka Riley and IamTamekaRiley.com. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks.